In today's video, we're gonna rank every NBA Eastern Conference team. This is pretty much just gonna be my seeding predictions for the East in 2026. I'm positive I'm gonna get some things wrong in this video, but everybody else will too, so that's the fun of it. But before we get into it, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. I'm a small channel just trying to grow. Thank you very much. So to start the video, we're gonna go in order from worst to best in the Eastern Conference. At the 15th seed in 2026, I have the Washington Wizards. Now for this to be my projected worst team in the Eastern Conference, let me glaze for a minute. I see the vision with the Wizards' path in their rebuild moving forward. This offseason, they drafted Trey Johnson, number 6 overall. They recently just traded for Cam Whitmore as well. And they also traded Jordan Poole for CJ McCollum's expiring contract. The Washington Wizards, to me, feel like a team that just needs that clear-cut number 1 option to really be a competitive team in the East. Because I see solid depth pieces littered throughout the roster like Keshawn George, AJ Johnson, Bub Carrington, Corey Kispert, and a potential future star in Alex Sarr. The Wizards rookie, who averaged 13 points per game, shooting 40% from the field. His shooting splits certainly weren't great, but shooting 31% from 3 as a big man is something you can work on and develop. I would expect him to become a very respectable 3-point shooter, but he was getting better and better on defense as the season went on. He developed into a pretty solid shot blocker already. I think Alex Sarr is going to be a cornerstone for this team, and hopefully in next year's draft, they can land at least a top 3 pick and land that clear-cut number 1 option to take them hopefully into the play-in race next year. I'm intrigued to see how the Wizards season plays out. I want to see improvements from Bub Carrington, Bilal Coulibaly, and AJ Johnson this season. I also want to see how CJ McCollum and Chris Middleton mentor these young guys, and I want to see them improve from last season, not be a complete laughingstock, and show some real fight and pride in their games this year. At the 14th seed in the Eastern Conference, I have the Brooklyn Nets. This team in the offseason traded Cam Johnson for Michael Porter Jr., along with drafting Nolan Traore, Danny Wolf, Ben Serif, and Igor Dimon in the first round this year. They're still in contract negotiations with Cam Thomas. I would expect him to return next season on a deal that's probably not too favorable for him, considering no teams in the NBA have cap space right now, and Cam Thomas's only confirmed offer is a 2-year, $14 million deal. The Brooklyn Nets are in the same position as the Washington Wizards. I'm sure they're shooting for the number 1 overall pick in next year's draft as well. I would expect both Michael Porter Jr. and Nick Claxton to be shopped at the trade deadline just because they don't fit the timeline, and you could hopefully get some value out of those guys and then give more minutes to the younger players. This is just another development year for the Brooklyn Nets, but they are bringing back their best jerseys, so it should be a somewhat exciting year for them. At the 13th seed, I have the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls, simply put, are just a flawed roster with not a lot of talent jumping off the page. Obviously, I'm excited to see Matas Buzelis' development in year 2. I am intrigued to see how much Chicago pays Josh Giddey and what their plans are for Kobe White, if they want to trade him while his value is peaking or if they want to re-up on him. As for Nikola Vucevic, he's on an expiring $20 million contract. The Bulls have been looking to trade him for years now, and it's rumored that if they can't find a trade partner, they might even release him outright. I mean, this team is just riddled with okay players, just not a lot of exciting ones. They re-signed Trey Jones, who is solid. They traded for Isaac Okoro. Maybe they can get something out of him. He's a solid perimeter defender. He just can't shoot the ball. I would like to see a better year from Patrick Williams, who just simply has not developed offensively, but that might be asking too much. He's already in year 6 and he just can't figure out his offense. Noah Essengay is an intriguing prospect. I really like that pick and I hope he flourishes in his rookie year. But yeah, I expect a lot of turnover from this roster. Nothing really seems set in stone here. The Bulls somehow manage a way to always be competitive, so if they sneak into the playoffs, I wouldn't even be shocked, but this roster is severely flawed and even Bulls fans would agree with that. For the 11th seed, I have the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics, just minutes before I recorded this video, traded Georges Niang and 2 second-round picks for RJ Lewis Jr., an undrafted rookie, and a trade exception. So basically, the Boston Celtics traded Kristaps Porzingis for an undrafted player. I know Joe Mazzulla is going to want to be competitive. I know Jaylen Brown is still an all-star level player. He's going to want to ball out. You still have Derek White. You traded for Anthony Simons, who's a solid offensive weapon. But when you take a look at this roster for what it is, minus Jayson Tatum, this team has 5 rotation caliber players. And as of right now, this team is headed into the season with a Luka Garza, Neemias Queta center rotation. Now, I'm sure there will be turnover for this roster as well. Right now, they're relying a lot on guys like Hugo Gonzalez and Baylor Shireman. Just guys we don't know how good they are yet, but you still have Derek White and Jaylen Brown and Peyton Pritchard and Anthony Simons and one of the best coaching staffs in the league and championship pedigree. It's just hard for me to envision this team completely tanking, but for right now, I have them as the 12th seed. Although the Celtics are annual contenders. This roster as it stands today is just completely devoid of talent, and I'm not very optimistic on how they fared this season. For the 11th seed, I have the Charlotte Hornets. Unfortunately, I have this team missing out on the play-in yet again, but I do expect to see improvement from the team. I would like to see a better year 2 from Tijan Salon. I expect a solid rookie season from Cunningham, and I really like the addition of Colin Sexton along with the draft picks of Liam McNeely and Ryan Kalkbrenner. This is a talented squad. Their main issue has just been injuries. It feels like this team can never all be healthy at the same time, and with the East being generally weaker this year, I would expect an improved win-loss record. You also have Grant Williams coming back from injury. You have an offseason for LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller to recover from their injuries, along with Trey Mann coming back to the team. I just sense a lot of good vibes for this team headed into 2026. LaMelo Ball last season in 47 games averaged his career high in 25 points per game, but unfortunately the shooting splits dipped. He only shot 40% from the field. I would expect those numbers to look a lot better this year, and I would expect competitive basketball from the Charlotte Hornets in 2026. The only reason I have this team missing out on the play-in as they stand right now is just their lack of center depth. Musa Diabate is a solid defender and rebounder, but he is undersized at 6'9". Behind him, you have their free agent signing Mason Plumlee, who I am not very fond of, a horrid defender and very lackadaisical with the ball, but I do expect their rookie Ryan Kalkbrenner to give them solid minutes this year. I think 2026 will be a step in the right direction for the Charlotte Hornets. For my first play-in team, the number 10th seed in the Eastern Conference, I have the Toronto Raptors. This is one of the more talented teams in the Eastern Conference from top to bottom. There's just a ton of rotation players. You could spot 12 to 13 of these guys' minutes and not feel bad about it at all. They're very deep, they're very promising, and if all things go according to plan this year, they should actually be higher than the 10th seed, but unfortunately last season was just not a good one for them. The injury luck hit them hard, but they did trade for Brandon Ingram at the deadline, who I think is going to be very productive for them, but the fit is questionable with RJ Barrett and Scotty Barnes and Jakob Poeltl, who are all not great three-point shooters, and Brandon Ingram isn't exactly lights out himself, so there are some spacing issues for this team. But you have Emmanuel Quickley, who will be returning from an injury-riddled season last year where he only played 33 games. I would expect him to have a bounce-back year, and he hasn't shot under 37% from 3 since 2022. I also really like the pick of Colin Murray-Boyles in the first round. I think he should be a solid rotational player from day one. Should be a solid defender out the gate with a promising three-point shot, but really it all comes down to how far can Scotty Barnes lead this team in the Eastern Conference. If Scotty Barnes is going to be the best player on your team, I think he's going to have to ball out this year and prove that he's in a class with the Trey Youngs, the Cade Cunninghams of the world. But overall, this team has too much talent to miss out on the play-in. I have them as the 10th seed. At the 9th seed, I have the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, this is an extremely difficult team to rank because obviously if I'm getting Joel Embiid, one of the best players in the world, at 100% health, then I would have this team way higher than the 9th seed. But there just simply isn't reason to believe that Joel Embiid will be healthy this year. And really, if that is the case and Embiid only plays 30 or less games this year, I think the 76ers will miss the play-in entirely. But I'm relying on a somewhat stable season from Embiid. I think they'll at least make the play-in. I would expect him to obviously miss a few games, but at the end of the day, he is one of the best players in the world, and it's a night and day difference between when he is healthy and when he is not healthy. When he's healthy, we'll know, and I think he could string the 76ers on for a good amount of wins. Yeah, this roster just simply goes wherever Joel Embiid goes. If he has a solid season, he can play around 50 plus games, then this is a playoff team. But if Embiid just simply can't make the floor, then it's back down to where you were last year. Because this team in the offseason lost Gershon Yabusele, they brought back Aaron Gordon and Kyle Lowry for some reason, and I really like VJ Edgecombe, but you already have Jared McCain, Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, Justin Edwards, Kelly Oubre Jr. There's just not enough minutes to go around for these guys, and you're going to be relying on Andre Drummond and Adem Bona if Embiid goes down. The roster is certainly not perfect, but just simply the greatness of Joel Embiid, I think, can at least keep this team afloat in the East, and they should at least make the play-in spot. I'm expecting another all-star level season from Tyrese Maxey. Jared McCain will be back this season, one of the best rookies from last year. I would hope that Paul George can play more than 40 games this year. Last season, he had some of the worst shooting splits of his career, so hopefully he can get back on track. And I don't know what happens with Quentin Grimes, but if they bring him back, then that's just even less minutes for VJ Edgecombe. This team is just lacking size in general, and with the question marks on Paul George and Joel Embiid's health, I unfortunately cannot have them any higher than the 9th seed right now. For the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference, I have the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, this is a similar story to the 76ers. This team goes as far as Giannis takes them. I would expect an MVP level season from Giannis, but unfortunately, unfortunately, I just don't have this team winning that many regular season games because the depth around Giannis right now looks like Bobby Portis, Ryan Rollins, Kyle Kuzma, Miles Turner. That's just not great. This seems like a team of one of the best players in the world and then just a bunch of solid depth pieces. Like 7th to 9th man rotation guys, that's just not enough. There's a lack of playmaking and a lack of shot creation in general. I expect Giannis to be kind of the point guard of this team, but for that to be ultra effective, you have to rely on guys like Cole Anthony and Kyle Kuzma to hit their threes consistently, and that's just not a given. I do like the addition of Miles Turner. He's certainly an upgrade over Brook Lopez, but I don't think a guy like Miles Turner really changes the destination of the Milwaukee Bucks this year. It's just pretty obvious that this team doesn't have a lot to look forward to outside of their best player, and if God forbid Giannis goes down for even a few weeks, I mean, it could get really nasty for the Bucks. I hope they have a solid season, and I hope they at least make the playoffs, because if they don't, then it's more and more likely that Giannis will be on a different team next year. And I like loyalty in the NBA. I hope Giannis retires a Buck, but at the end of the day, his two best teammates are Miles Turner and Kyle Kuzma, and unless they pull off a miracle trade, I don't see them being in the upper echelon of teams in the Eastern Conference this year. For the number 7 seed, I have the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat this offseason drafted Kasparas Yakuchonis and traded for Norman Powell. Norman Powell was a lights out shooter for the Clippers last year, an all-star level player, and that was a huge upgrade for the Heat to get for absolutely nothing. I do have my questions on how he fits in the starting lineup. Do they have him or Tyler Hero playing the 3? Or do they have Tyler Hero running the point next year, which I'm also not too fond of? And do they plan on making Khalil Ware a full-time starter and giving Bam the power forward minutes? I think that's how you unlock the true potential of this team, if Bam Adebayo and Khalil Ware can just be two twin towers down low. Have your shooting on the perimeter in Norman Powell and Tyler Hero, with your lockdown perimeter defender in Davion Mitchell. I definitely see the vision with this team. You also have the development of Jaime Jaquez Jr., who had a down season last year, but I would expect him to get an uptick in minutes this year. You also have Nikola Jovic, who I feel like we've just been waiting on to break out, but last season he actually played pretty solid in 25 minutes a night, scoring 11 points per game. The Heat always find a way to be competitive throughout the regular season. I just could not envision them missing the play-in this year. I think there's enough talent and enough continuity on this roster to be a top 8 team in the East this year. At the 6th seed, I have the Indiana Pacers. The Pacers were one of my favorite teams in the league to watch last year, and their finals run was some of the most exciting basketball I've seen in years. But unfortunately, we know how that story ended last year, with Tyrese Halliburton tearing his Achilles in Game 7 of the NBA Finals, which is still the most absolutely insane thing I've ever heard. Obviously, they're going to be missing their offensive hub and their best player this year, but I think that gives opportunity for guys like Benedict Mathurin and Andrew Nembhard to take the next step. Benedict Mathurin is on the last year of his rookie contract. He averaged 16 points per game last year, and I would expect an uptick in minutes this year. So if there's any time for Benedict Mathurin to prove that he's the type of player you want to build around, now is the time. I would expect him to have a huge role in the Pacers' success this year, and I think this is the season he averages 20 points per game. Andrew Nembhard, who's going to be taking over the full-time point guard responsibility, I think is primed for a breakout year. We know he's been one of their most clutch playoff performers over the last 2 years, but in the regular season, he's just been very inconsistent. Last year, he shot 29% from 3. He's already an extremely solid perimeter defender, and I think he is fully capable of being a starting point guard. And you obviously still have Pascal Siakam, who's an all-star level guy, one of the best forwards in the league, a proven second option for a championship team, one of the most underrated players in the NBA, and I hope he stays healthy because I'm expecting a monster season from him next year. But we obviously have to discuss the departure of Miles Turner. Right now, their center rotation is Isaiah Jackson, James Wiseman, and Jay Huff, which is just obviously not great. It's actually pretty bad. So that's one of the big reasons why I think the Pacers will take a step back this year. They're simply going to miss the defensive presence and shooting of Miles Turner at the center spot. But aside from that, you still have Jarris Walker, Obi Toppin, Aaron Nesmith coming back next year. There's still continuity and chemistry between these guys, and I think they should still easily be a playoff team. For the 5th seed, I have the Atlanta Hawks. I'm expecting a big year from the Hawks. If there's any time to break out into one of the upper echelon teams in the Eastern Conference, it is now. You just pulled off one of your best off seasons ever, signing Nickeil Alexander-Walker and trading absolutely nothing for a guy of Kristaps Porzingis' caliber. If you can get him healthy and on the floor, he's still one of the best shot blockers in the league and still an extremely versatile offensive weapon. Dyson Daniels and Zachary Risache are only going to get better, and you also get Jalen Johnson back on the court. He is primed to have a career year. They also drafted Asa Newell and signed Luke Kennard. This is the first time I've been confident in the Atlanta Hawks' success in a very long time. I'm a big Trae Young believer, so every year I tell myself that the Hawks are going to get back into the Eastern Conference Finals like they were in 2021. They're going to rekindle that magic. Well, all signs are pointing to a positive direction for the Hawks this year. Trae Young had a down season scoring the ball. He had his worst shooting split since his rookie year, but he did average almost 12 assists per night and stood out as one of the best playmakers in the NBA. You add a sniper like Kristaps, you hope Dyson Daniels' three-point shot comes along. Luke Kennard is also a sniper. Nickeil Alexander-Walker can definitely hit a three. And the number 1 overall pick of last year, Zachary Risache, just awaiting in the shadows to break out. If all things go correctly, I think the Hawks could be a top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference, but I should probably see it first before I jump the gun, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna keep it light. I have the Hawks at the 5th seed, but I expect them to be a force in the postseason for the first time since 2021. At the 4th seed, I have the Detroit Pistons. Last season, we witnessed Cade Cunningham break out into one of the official best point guards in the NBA, and I would expect an even better season from him this year. The Pistons arose out of the gutter of the Eastern Conference last season to be the 6th seed and won 44 games. For the first time in so long, there was genuine reason to be excited for Pistons basketball. The development of Jalen Duren into being one of the best young centers in the league, the addition of Tobias Harris was big for them, and Asar Thompson looks to be one of their most promising young players and hopefully one of the best perimeter defenders in the league in a few years. You also get the return of Jaden Ivey this season, who finally broke out last year shooting 41% from the field and almost 18 points per game. If that 3-ball can stay consistent, then I see no reason as to why he can't be Cade's backcourt partner for the next 5 years. In the offseason, they lost Dennis Schroeder to the Kings and lost Malik Beasley to FanDuel, but they brought in one of the best shooters in the league in Duncan Robinson on a 3-year deal and replaced Dennis Schroeder with Karis LeVert, one of the more reliable shot creators off the bench in the NBA. I expect this team to build on what they developed last season. I hope to see improvements in Ron Holland's game. Last year, he shot 24% from 3, which is obviously horrific, but he's an incredible defender and could be a big part of the Pistons rotation if he could just figure out his offense. Yeah, I think JB Bickerstaff and the Pistons are headed into the right direction. They're going to walk into the playoffs as a top 4 seed and be an even improved version of what they were last season. At the 3rd seed, I have the Orlando Magic. The Magic pulled off one of the biggest trades of this offseason, shipping out Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Cole Anthony, along with 4 first-round picks for one of the better shooters in the NBA in Desmond Bane. This was the official win-now move for the Magic. They believe they can make a run in this Eastern Conference, given that Jayson Tatum and Tyrese Halliburton will be out. This is the time for a new contender in the East to emerge, and with 2 all-star level guys in Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner leading the way, the Magic could find themselves in the NBA Finals this season if things go their way. The Magic last season snuck into the playoffs as the 7th seed, but I believe they would have been a much higher seed if Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner didn't miss games. They'll be back at 100% health to start this year, and if both can stay healthy, I would expect them both to have career years. This roster is loaded from top to bottom. You have Anthony Black and Jalen Suggs to round out the guard room, 2 great perimeter defenders, and Jalen Suggs last season averaged over 15 points per game for the first time in his career, albeit the shooting splits went down, but with the improved spacing to the team now, with the addition of Desmond Bane, I would expect his shooting splits to go up. Hopefully Franz Wagner follows behind him, as he only shot 29% last year. Franz and Paolo have to prove they can be the star duo for the future of the Magic. This is one of the better defensive teams in the NBA, but they've always struggled on offense. The Magic offense is painful to watch at times, but with the addition of a pass-first point guard in Tyus Jones, and with the improved spacing of trading for Desmond Bane and drafting Jace Richardson, I think this is a top 3 team in the East and could be a dark horse NBA Finals team. For the number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference, I have the New York Knicks. I expect a similar level of dominance from the Knicks this season. They improved along the margins in free agency, signing a solidified backup point guard in Jordan Clarkson and Gershon Yabusele, who played his first season in the NBA since 2019 last year, which he averaged 11 points per game and shot 50% from the field and 38% from 3. He's as good as a player you can ask for a 2-year, $12 million contract. That was one of the better steals of free agency in my opinion. You also still have one of the best point guards in the NBA in Jalen Brunson to lead the squad. He should have another All-NBA level season. Mikal Bridges, who was just recently rewarded with a 4-year extension, he struggled shooting the 3 consistently last year, but with more continuity and better chemistry headed into next year, also with a new coach in Mike Brown, who is simply more creative offensively than Tom Thibodeau was. I think Mikal Bridges will give the Knicks their money's worth next year. Along with Karl Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, and Josh Hart rounding out the starting lineup, this team is a nightmare on the perimeter defensively, and I expect them to be right back as one of the best teams in the East next year and potentially even a finals run. And for the first seed, the best team in the Eastern Conference, I have the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers last season went 64-18, one of the best seasons in their franchise's history. You saw real development out of Evan Mobley in his 4th season, where he averaged a career high 18 points per game and shot 37% from the 3, and has also become one of the best defenders in the NBA. You pair that defensive presence with Jarrett Allen on the inside, another incredible rim protector, and that team is just impossible to get around defensively. I expect another dominant year from the Cavs this regular season. The Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland backcourt should continue to be on point. They've developed into one of the better perimeter duos in the league. You're also getting your first full season of DeAndre Hunter in Cleveland, who shot 43% from 3 in his time with Cleveland last year. I would expect him to get even more touches this year. They also signed a solidified backup center in Larry Nance Jr., who was a no doubt upgrade over Tristan Thompson, along with trading Isaac Okoro for Lonzo Ball. Isaac Okoro was one of their better perimeter defenders, but unfortunately his offensive game was just not developed enough to see real playoff minutes for a contending team. You get a guy like Lonzo Ball who, when healthy, can shoot 40% from 3 and dish out 5 to 7 assists per night. That could be a huge addition for them, key if healthy. It'd be incredible to see Lonzo Ball return to form on one of the best teams in the NBA. He is the perfect backup to Darius Garland and can play alongside both Garland and Mitchell. The Cavs have something to prove this season. They haven't seen much playoff success in the Donovan Mitchell era, and with the blows to the Pacers and the Celtics, now is the time to prove that they are a legit championship contender. But anyways, that is going to wrap it up. Let me know what you guys think about my predictions. If you would change anything, if you have any different opinions, just let me know. I'll welcome all comments. But anyways, if you guys did enjoy, please be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Again, I'm a small channel just trying to grow. If you want to support me, that'd mean the world. And I hope to see you guys in a future video as well. I'm out. Deuces.